4.5, completing the square. So first we're going to start off with multiplying. One thing to remember about this multiplying is it's x plus 3 quantity squared. So this is x plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay, it is not x plus 3 squared where you distribute it, so it's x squared plus 9. Okay, again, it is not this. Okay, here you're going to distribute the x, so it's x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. Okay, then you're going to collect like terms, x squared plus 6x plus 9. Let's try one more. This is 2w minus 3 times 2w minus 3. So this is 4w squared minus 6w plus 9. Collect like terms, 4w squared minus 12w plus 9 would be our answer. Okay, next we want to look for what we call square trinomials. And these square trinomials are in the form of a squared plus 2b plus b squared, where the first and last term are perfect squares. When they're perfect square trinomials, the way you can factor it is you square root the first, you square root the last, and you take that middle sign. Let me show you as follows. You have 3 terms, that's what gets you the trinomial. And is the first term and the last term are perfect square? The answer is yes. So you square root this term, you square root this term. Square root of x squared is x, square root of 1 is 1, and you take that middle sign. And since it's a perfect square, the square is going to go out here. Meaning, if you wanted to check this answer, you can do x plus 1 and x plus 1, because that's what this means here in blue, and factor distribute it out, and you would get x squared plus 2x plus 1. Let's try the next one. We have 3 terms. The first term and the last term are perfect squares. Now here's what's also very fun about this. If you take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term and you multiply it by 2, you will get that middle number. Let's try that. Square root of p squared is p. Square root of 81 is 9. It's a little bit out of order. But p times 2 times 9 gets you 18. Therefore, you know it's a perfect square trinomial. So let's set up our answer. Square root of p is p. Square root of 81 is 9. You take that middle sign and you add a square at the top. Let's try one more. The square root, so 4y squared is perfect squared and 144 is a perfect square. Let's try my hand. The square root of 4y squared is 2y. Square root of 144 is 12. If I take 2y times 12 times 2, and where am I getting this 2 from? Right here, I just drew an arrow. That gets you 48y, which is your middle term. So let's get the answer. This is 2y, this is 12. You bring the plus sign down because it's the middle sign. Squared would be your answer. Knowing that, you're able to solve. If they want us to find the square root property here, we're literally taking the square root of both sides. We talked about this last lesson. So here you're going to square root both sides. X is equal to plus or minus 11. Don't forget the plus or minus. This one here, when you get rid of the square root both sides. X plus 3 equals plus or minus 6. Now, we have 2 equations here. We have x plus 3 equals a positive 6, and then we have x plus 3 equals a negative 6. You have to make sure you do both. So here we have x equals 3 and x equals negative 9. Let's try number 1 down here. Now, what you notice is this one on the left side is a perfect square trinomial. Square root of the first and the last is x and 36, so that's 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So the way we're going to set this up, you get x, and the square root of 36 is 6. You bring that plus sign down. That's how you square the perfect square trinomial. And you bring the 6. From there, you're going to solve. Square root both sides. X plus 6 equals plus or minus rad 6. And then again, we need to get x by itself. X equals negative 6 plus or minus rad 6. Now, why did I not split it into 2 like I did up here? Is because it's a radical 6. You only split it into 2 when you have the whole number. Let's try the last one here. Don't bring the 13 over. Leave the 13 on the side. You're going to be faced with a perfect square trinomial. So factor that. X square root of 16 is 4. We bring the minus sign down, equals 13. Next, you're going to square root both sides. So x minus 4 equals plus or minus rad 13. And then you answer x equals 4 plus or minus rad 13. Now we're going into completing the square. Okay, there's a couple things we need to do to complete the square. The best way to look at it as majority of your problems will come like this. X squared plus bx equals c. And you want this space in between right here. Now, when you complete the square, I forgot the m. The equation you use is b over 2 squared. Okay. Now, once you complete the square, then you're going to add that b over 2 squared to both sides. So it looks like this, b over, or x squared plus bx, and then you have equals c. Once you complete the square, that b over 2 squared number will go on both sides. Okay. Once you do that, then this right here, you'll see it easier with numbers, becomes a perfect square trinomial. And that's what we just solved. So let's write out steps. Step 1. You want to get the constant, which is c, on the other side. Basically, you want to isolate it. Okay, so we're going to move this c so it's over here on the left hand, or I'm sorry, on the right hand side. Step 2, you're going to complete the square. Which is this step. Step 3, you're going to add the b over 2 squared into the equation, which is what we did right here. Last step, step 4. I'm running out of room. I'm going to write it right here. Step 4, you're going to factor and solve. So those are our 4 steps we need to follow every single time. So first, we're just going to start off basic. Let's practice getting a completed square. So our b, this is our b. So b over 2 squared, negative 10 over 2 squared, negative 5 squared is 25. So your completed square is negative 25. Then it says write the trinomial perfect square. So the last part, our answer would be x squared minus 10x plus 25. Okay, so those are 2 answers. Here's your trinomial as a perfect square, and here's your c. All right, let's go on to the next one. We're not going to do this one because that's going to give you a decimal. I just don't want to confuse you yet. So let's look at number 8. Okay, so again, why do we complete the square? That's the big question. Why? Why do we have to complete the square? Oops, why? Because you can't factor this. There's no factors of 8 that will get you that positive 2. Okay, now I know you're thinking, wait, 4 and 2 could work, okay, but not. You usually have to complete the square when it won't work. So the reason why we're doing this one is because it's kind of easier to see our numbers. Okay, here we go. So step 1, we're going to get the 8 on the other side. X squared plus 2x equals 8. Now I'm going to leave that space right there. Step 2 says to complete the square. b over 2 squared, 2 over 2 squared, 1 squared, which is 1. Okay, now I'm going to plug that back into my equation. So if 1, so I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to put a 1 here. That means this is now step 3. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4 says to factor and solve. What I said inside here would be a perfect square trinomial, which it is. X, square root of x squared is x, square root of 1 is 1. You bring that addition sign down, equals 9. And now we solve. Square root both sides. So x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 3. Okay, we're going to have two answers. X plus 1 equals 3, and x plus 1 equals negative 3. So x is equal to 2, and x is equal to negative 4. Okay. Let's try the next one. All right, so step 1 is to get that 9 on the other side. X squared minus 4, x equals 9. Then I'm leaving that little space. Step 2 is to complete the square. So negative 4 over 2 squared equals negative 2 squared, which is 4. Step 3, okay, we're going to input it back in. So a plus 4 and a plus 4. And now step 4 is to factor and solve. So this is x, square root of 4 is 2. I added the negative sign already, sorry. Equals 13. Okay, next you're going to square root both sides. So you have x minus 2 equals plus or minus rad 13. Since that's not a whole number, you're just going to keep your answer as x equals 2 plus or minus rad 13. And that's our lesson for today.